Hey guys, how you doing today? Out here with my little pug, as you can see. So if I gotta stop and take care of him, sorry. I'll say sorry in advance. He's been cooped up all day, so I thought let him out, have some fun with him. Let him have a little time in here. Yeah, he's such a good little boy, isn't he? Isn't he? Yes, he is. Yes, he is, my sweet little guy. The thing I think I wanted to talk about today, what's been banging around in my head, I've been living in like the imagination space here, writing my story, getting that further along. And I got thinking about, all that zombie apocalypse stuff that we went through. Remember all that? We went through all these like zombie apocalypse movies, and everything was about how zombies were coming and everything was going to be crazy. Well, have you noticed that in the United States, it basically unfolded that way? That the zombie apocalypse narrative is exactly how COVID has been treated? Like, some kind of unknown disease of nebulous origin, right? Sweeps across the country. Our higher ups, our elected officials, and our institutions seem completely incapable of doing anything about it. And there's that heavy denialism movement, right? Until finally you end up with these like anti-mask types who might as well be zombies, right? These anti-mask types who have just like been face-fed all this bullshit and rhetoric, so that they think that saying no, we're not going to wear a mask is the equivalent of freedom, right? They've shut their brains off. They might as well be zombies, marching around, infecting others with their nonsense. But it's like we all knew, right? It's like we all intrinsically understood and we all intrinsically knew that our government was not going to be able to rise to the challenge, that our institutions, that our culture, that our whole society and our whole culture was not going to be able to rise to the challenges of like a disease such as COVID. But I think it also articulates our internal understanding that we don't really understand how to fight climate change, right? Like we don't really know what to do about it. Like, and I think the zombie apocalypse narrative as an analogy is apt, right? Like, let's say if there was a legitimate threat of a zombie apocalypse, right? Like if we actually had evidence and we had everything and we were like, there's going to be a zombie apocalypse, guys. Like there's zombies, like this, it's going to happen. We have the evidence. We can see it right in front of us. Well, where are the movies where like a zombie thing happens and the government is like tight and ready and they have it constrained and all this kind of stuff? That's okay, buddy. That's okay. I know zombies, right? You start talking zombies and he gets all vigilante. He gets all vigilanted. He's worried about zombies. The so where's all the movies where like a zombie outbreak begins and the government is actually like right on it and they're ready to go and let's go and they've got blocks cordoned off and everything's quarantined and sectioned off, right? And like the government's ahead of it and they're fighting. Oh yeah, okay, we're gonna do it. And yeah, let's do this kind of stuff. Like where's all the movies where there's competent governors or even competent businessmen? You ever notice that in zombie apocalypse movie, businessmen are essentially sociopaths who will sacrifice other people's lives in order to save their own 100% of the time? Completely accurate, if you ask me. But those movies don't exist, right? The movies don't exist where there's like competent governance because we've structured our entire society to ensure that our governors are incompetent, right? That's how we've structured it. We've built it that way on purpose, actively, right? For like a generation. It's been at least 40 years that we've been doing it, where the people who get into office are not people who see that there are legitimate problems that need focusing on and fixing, but instead see that enriching billionaires is the way forward, right? That's the right thing to do. Well, if we can make sure that there's, 3 or 4 people who have hundreds of billions of dollars or billions of dollars, well, then it doesn't matter how many people get thrown into poverty, right? It doesn't matter how many people are sacrificed to the apocalypse of our creation, right? Which is exactly what they're doing, right? They're creating a zombie apocalypse. They're creating the conditions to maximize damage to the populace. And the insanity of it. This is the one thing I'm actually really struggling with to describe to kids who are beginning to become cognizant, right? Who are beginning to gain awareness, right? Who are, and I'm talking like, once you go through, like if you're a kid and you're like 10, 11, you don't really know anything, right? You certainly don't know anything about the world, right? You're starting at about 10 or 11 to formulate your own opinions and have your own thoughts and all that kind of stuff. But then you get nailed with puberty and you're worthless, right? Puberty, you could literally say to a kid while they were in puberty that the Nazis are attacking, and they really would, and it seems built in, they really would be like, oh man, the Nazis are attacking. Oh, that girl, she's so hot. I gotta get with that girl. They would definitely deprioritize a Nazi invasion in favor of women. That's puberty, baby. That's puberty. So they're worthless, basically, until they're about 17, 18, right? Like they're in that kind of like absolutely dumb, can't think straight, until they finally start to get a little bit of a handle about 18, 17. And like 16, 17, 18, that's when you need to start leveling with these kids and start telling them about what the world actually looks like and what's actually happening and what the challenges actually are. And I got a niece and nephew that are coming up on that in these next few years, and I'm really struggling to explain to them that, yeah, we structured our society so that only 3-4 people really actually benefited. We sacrificed everybody else's lives, and it turns out we did it for no reason whatsoever. Nothing. That even the billionaire class ended up with absolutely nothing, and it was completely worthless, right? It was all, we destroyed ourselves, and we destroyed our economy, and we destroyed our ecosystem, and we destroyed everything. We erected a death cult, and we sacrificed ourselves to diseases so that a couple of billionaires could take invisible, made-up numbers and punch them into a computer screen to make them higher. And oh, by the way, those invisible made-up numbers, we literally made them up. They come from nothing. They go to nothing, right? They sit in these offshore accounts and they achieve nothing whatsoever. They're just there so billionaires can look at them and go, there they are. We have them. And they're worthless. They're absolutely meaningless. They don't do anything. Like, we live in this weird narrative driven by the fascists and conservatives in our culture that money is an object, that money is a thing to be worshipped and admired, right? And that having money is itself an indication of moral purity, right? That's the big one. And it's all this mass delusion, right? It is a mass delusion. This idea that accumulating money is the purpose of your life. And it's this incredible mass delusion that we could do away with in a day, right? If we had leadership with courage and leadership with foresight and vision, right? We literally could just say, like, no, money's a tool. And that's exactly what it is. Money's a tool. It's like, or technology, like writing, right? It's something that humans do. We invented it, we created it. It's part of who we are. And if we just acknowledge that, like, yeah, and the mass accumulation of it distorts the entire purpose. It would be like saying only 3 people are allowed to read, right? That no, we can't have everybody reading. The people who read, even though that they were structurally trained to do that and all that kind of stuff, they earned it, and so they get to hold on to reading and writing. The rest of us, we just have to find jobs to attract the people who have reading and who have writing to us. No, you can't read, you can't write. No, we can't do that, right? Like, oh no, you're not good enough for that, right? To me, it's the exact same stuff. Take all of the narrative shit that you hear about money, right, and apply it to reading and writing, and it isn't any different. And if it sounds stupid and absurd, you're exactly in the right spot, right? We're in this incredible period of total absurdism where we believe that things that are false are true to a fundamental level, to like a fundamental bare bones, like down to the skeleton, to the marrow of the skeleton, to the atomic level. We believe things that are we have built an entire civilization on the back of total lies and falsehoods. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. That we can't seem... Oh, you're going to hear my puppy grumbling. Why? Because he's getting some scritches. Yeah, scritches. And I'm really struggling to articulate this to the next generation. That in a manner that the next generation is going to be able to quickly understand that we have to start fighting back against these sociopaths. Because the mass, we could literally build a society that says straight up, once you make $1 million, that's it, you're done, right? Every year, annually, you make $1 million, you're done. Everything else comes to us, right? We could definitely do that. It would take a day. It would take no time whatsoever. And yeah, would that cause distortions? Yeah. It would cause the sociopath enterprises to collapse. It would empower the poor, who don't have access to, who have been completely disenfranchised from the economy. It would actually create jobs, right? Because instead of having one person hoarding all the wealth and doing all that, there would be several people who would suddenly have access to a wealth pool that they didn't have access to before, right? Instead of giving one person $50 million, you would give 50 people $1 million, right? Sounds good, right? Instead of restructuring our entire economy to cater to the whims of a handful of billionaires, right? Our economy would restructure itself to help more people and to aid more people. More people would have access to money. More people would be able to spend more money, right? This idea that we can build an economy where no one has any money except a handful of people is insipid and stupid, right? It completely misunderstands how an economy works, and it does so on purpose. And that's where we're at more than anything, right? The people who are still voting conservative and the people who are still leaning liberal from that conservative position, they don't understand what an economy is. They think money is real. It's this but I mean, what do you expect from people who still think that there's a wizard coming back at any moment, right? Who still clutch onto a Bible they don't read. Like, what do you think? Like, what do you think's going to happen? If you can delude yourself into believing that you are a follower of a wizard coming back at any moment, right? If you can hold that delusion, there's no delusion you can't hold on to. I knew a guy, he thought he was a prophet sent by God, and he was like a delusional loser, right? Just like drugs had burnt his brain out. And I knew someone who, like, really hitched their wagon to that guy's star. And I really came to see, like, no, if you believe that you are a prophet, right? If you hold on to this delusional belief, then there is no lie that you can't believe or espouse onto others, right? And this is exactly what's happened to our bankers, to our business people, to our politicians. They believe this massive lie that says that all things should be geared towards the accumulation of money for individuals, right? But money is not a thing. It's not real. They've deluded themselves into believing that it's real. And they will scream and they will... If we were to restructure the society so that they would get access to less of it, or their access to money was limited, they would scream and they would holler and they would shout and they would jump up and down and they would say how it's the destruction of the society. And I would be to the point where I would say, yeah, that's right, we're destroying the death cult. We're absolutely going to destroy the death cult. We should destroy the death cult, because you're involved in a death cult. And then once everybody's lives improved, and it would happen immediately, right? More people would have access to labor, to money, to goods, to services, to all kinds of things. Once that started happening, people would just begin ignoring these sociopaths, right? Why would you pay any attention to a sociopath unless you actually had to? And that's what they're most worried about. That's where it gets not fake, right? Because they understand that as long as they have money hoarded, that they are important, right? Like, they have something of a mental illness, right? Like, they need to believe that they're important, and they're not, right? But that their belief to their insistence that they are important makes them force the issue. Oh no, I'm important. I'm going to withhold food and shelter from major sections of the populace because I'm important, right? And of course, this is a good thing to do because my wealth hoarding is self-justified, right? And this mental illness that I'm 100% suffering from, where I need to be acknowledged as important, not only to my peers or my family, but on a historical level, right? I need to ascend to the level of godhood. I need to be like Alexander the Great. I need to be like Marcus Aurelius, or I need to be like Caesar, right? I can't just be a man walking through this life who, accumulates a modest fortune for himself and then dies. Like, that's not suitable for these arrogant narcissists who are obviously sociopaths sacrificing people's lives for their fortunes, right? It's not enough for these sort of for these narcissists, for these self-inflated egos who think that the only thing that's important is withholding goods and services from other people in order to force them into a labor market that they themselves own, right? Like, once you lay the system bare and see it for what it is, the main contributors to maintaining that system become obvious sociopaths. And the worst ones are the ones who couch all their beliefs in the kind of Christian rhetoric and pretend like they're religious when they're obviously frauds, right? But people have been so abandoned. This is part of it, right? People have been so abandoned that these frauds and con men are able to gain stronger footholds because people have nowhere else to go, right? If a con man comes up and begins spinning you a yarn about how you can join the death cult and everything will be better for you, and then maybe things, you have a circle of friends all of a sudden, right? There's people who are actually listening to you, who are hearing your problems, even though it's all a total fraud in order to steal your money, which is exactly what they're doing. But if the option is between doing that and like being left alone at home and just decaying to death, out of a sense of existential anxiety, people will go towards where the social circle is, right? And so as long as you keep people abandoned, impoverished, scared, and alone, and isolated, you can exploit them in this manner, which is exactly what the sociopath class wants to do. Okay, yeah, that's the end of me. The zombie apocalypse is coming, and the movies are completely accurate. We're going to be abandoned, without a doubt. The political class is going to do fuck all to help us. So do what you can now. Be that guy in the zombie apocalypse movie who's prepared. That's what I say. Be the guy in the zombie apocalypse movie who's prepared. All right, guys. I love y'all. Good luck.